ਰੈਡ ਐਫਐਮ ਸੁਣ ਰਹੇ ਸੀ 89.1 ਤੇ 93.1 CKYE। ਜਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਮੈਂ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਦੱਸ ਰਿਹਾ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਅੱਜ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਆਨਰੇਬਲ ਅਹਿਮਦ ਹੁਸੈਨ ਜੀ ਸ਼ਾਮਲ ਹੋਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਨੇ। ਉਹ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਟੂਡੀਓਜ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪਹੁੰਚ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਹਨ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਹੋਏਗੀ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕੁਝ ਸੀਮਤ ਸਮਾਂ ਦਿੱਤਾ, ਲੇਕਿਨ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੀ ਮੈਂ ਚਾਹੁੰਦਾ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਿੱਧੇ ਤੌਰ 'ਤੇ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰ ਸਕੋ। ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਮਨ 'ਚ ਕੋਈ ਸਵਾਲ ਨੇ, ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਸਵਾਲ ਅਸੀਂ ਲੈ ਸਕੇ ਲਵਾਂਗੇ। ਅਤੇ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਇਸ ਗੱਲ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਰਾਜ਼ੀ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਨੇ। ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਵੈਲਕਮ। Thank you very much for coming into the studio today.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be back.
So how's your tour going in?
Good. Couldn't be better. We've really had a lot of good momentum lately on a number of announcements that we've made on immigration and talent and using immigration to grow our economy. A lot of announcements with respect to economic immigration. A lot of measures to help businesses and employers and industry to meet their needs through immigration, things that they've been asking for. So very, very happy with that. Also a lot of humanitarian family reunification announcements. And finally, the one main one that I'm very also happy to talk about today, which is a big comprehensive piece, is comprehensive action and investments to help people who have been taken advantage of by unauthorized immigration consultants. Something we've heard a lot from the community, including on this show. So I'm proud that we've finally delivered on the right strategy, comprehensive strategy to tackle this. And I'm glad we took the time because we needed a lot of time to get it right. The previous government tried but failed. So we didn't want to fail. We wanted to take the time to get it right. And so I'll also be able to talk about that. Yeah.
But another thing that I want to bring it to your notice,
Yes.
Minister, is that about the visitor visas. Since you started under your leadership,
Yeah.
a lot of people got visitor visas.
Yeah.
Previously, they do not used to get those visas.
Yes.
But what happened recently is now that some people are getting visas who are really not qualified to visit, and people who don't have the money, their intention is not to tour or visit. They are applying for 6 months, they're getting 10 years visa. On the other hand, people who are doing businesses here for 40 years, they're running gas stations and they're doing other businesses.
Yes.
They're paying millions of dollars of taxes, and their blood relations are not getting visitor visas. I mean, how can you get the balance?
Well, first of all, let's start with a few facts. Under the leadership of Prime Minister Trudeau's government, we have really increased the speed in which we are able to issue visas. There is less wait times across the world. We have opened more visa application centers than any other government. And specific to India, we have issued 30% more visas to Indian nationals than the previous government. Tourist visas. So we have been very sensitive to the need of Indian nationals to come and visit their friends, family, relatives, and to visit our great country. So 30% more visas is a huge increase compared to the last government. So we've been there and we've listened to the community's concerns about temporary family reunification through
No
the visa
doubt about
process.
it, but there's a need to strike the balance because some people are getting visas, they're not really tourists, and other people who has to be here, their blood relations here, they're willing to put money as a collateral, but they're not still getting visa. They're getting refused because you have no history, you don't have those lame excuses.
Well, it's not an excuse. That's the system that we have. If you are calling for us to change the system, that's another story. But the system is the immigration officer has to look at each application on its own. The immigration officer doesn't know that person. They just have to apply the requirements. They have to see if this person has good travel history, if they are able to support themselves economically through the visit, and also if they're established in their country of origin. I must say, I don't know if you're aware, but part of the consideration that the immigration officer has when he or she is looking at the application is the possibility of this person also violating the terms of the visa if they're given a visa. And that is a concern as well. So it's a very tough balance because there are some people who violate that trust. They come, they overstay, they work when they're not supposed to, or worse than that, they claim asylum. And so the officer has to look at all those issues. And we also always tell people that if you are planning to come and visit Canada, first of all, apply early. Second of all, please have a complete application because the immigration officer doesn't know you. So we've had situations in which people don't have a complete application and then they complain that, oh, I was denied. Well, the officer can only make decisions based on what's in front of them. They don't know the person, right? I agree it's a balancing act. It's always a judgment call. We try our best. And
somehow their judgment of your officers is, there's something wrong with it because some people have brought their servants here as visitors. And some people who are well-to-do and established business people, taxpayers, 40 years, 50 years living here, and their blood relatives, they can't come here. They refuse them. That's the balance I'm talking about.
Yeah, anyone who uses the visa process to come and work illegally in Canada is breaking immigration laws, and there's consequences to that. So I'm not.
Okay, the next thing I want to
discounting
talk
that,
to you as minister is that not your opposition parties, it's the general public now criticizing that you have brought too many refugees in the system.
Okay.
And last week when you said we want to bring more refugees as economic immigrants.
No, what I said was, that was not.
Are you
not
bringing more?
No. What I said was that refugees are not a monolithic group of people. They're just like you and me, but they've been displaced by circumstances. So what I'm saying is, the question I got was, where do you see things going in the future? So what I said was, there is a program that we're working on with a group called Talent Beyond Boundaries. And among the population of refugees, there's people who have different skills, right? You would agree. Refugees are just like everyone else. They have diversity of experiences. They have diversity of skills. So if there's a refugee in a camp somewhere and they're an engineer, I'm saying, what is wrong with allowing them to compete with other skilled immigrants who compete with everyone else anyway to get into Canada? Why should that person be limited to the refugee category? Do you understand what I'm saying? So let them compete, and if they have the right skills and the right number of points, they come in. If not, that's fine. So it's not a special program. I was just saying.
Do we have infrastructure to support these refugees?
Well, I just told you they're competing with everyone else. So if they don't apply to Express Entry, for example, we'll still have people applying to Express Entry and winning over others. And we're supporting that infrastructure. So why is it an issue if a refugee comes through the skilled process? So if they're bringing skills to Canada.
Are we taking more refugees?
No, I'm saying that's one of the things that we have to think about. If that's... I was at a conference where they were commemorating World Refugee Day. So they were asking me, what other innovation can we bring to this program? And I said, well, one of the things we may have to look at is to allow a segment of the refugee population to compete for skilled immigration. And that's fine. That's a competition. It's not, they're not taking the place of anybody else, number one. Number two is we can do two things at the same time as a country and as a government, which is respond to the need of Canada to be open to immigration, while at the same time investing in infrastructure. The fact that we have pressures on affordable housing and on infrastructure, that's not the fault of immigrants. It's just a reality that we're facing as a growing country, and we need to make those investments. But at the same time, immigration is allowing us to address some of the needs that we have as an economy. So, for example, we have businesses in Canada that are growing very fast. And their ability to stay in Canada depends on their ability to attract workers to fill unfilled jobs. And in some sectors, they have used up all the local labor supply. and they still have a gap. So how do you address that without immigration? We can't.
Well, do you have to bring refugees for that?
No, again, you know, so let me try to
like skilled workers.
No, let me try to rephrase this. If an engineer lives in a country and has qualified himself or herself as an engineer, and then they become a refugee due to circumstances that are beyond their control. And if they then eventually apply to come to Canada and compete with everyone else and get in through their skills, is there anything wrong with that?
Well, other people who are really qualified people waiting in the queue, is it fair with them?
But they have competed. This person is not taking the spot of another person. So let's say we don't give them access. There's already competition in our economic system, right? So under the Express Entry system, the federal skilled worker program, you get a number of points based on your work experience, based on your language skills, based on your educational qualifications and so on, right? You get a number of points. And if those points are high enough compared to the next person, you get in. It's a competition. The refugee does not get extra points because they're a refugee. They're basically assessed on the same category, right? So they're not taking the spot of anybody else. And by the way, this is just a thought that I had, but as the system stands now, refugees only have access to the refugee category. I want to really point out something here that I think it's not an accident that there's a lot of thought around these issues with respect to taking the space or queue jumping and so on. Because the last 4 years, the Conservatives have spent time really spreading this misinformation that refugees take the spot of family class or economic immigrants. It's false. It's false because it's two different categories. Asylum seekers are processed by the Immigration Refugee Board, which is independent. It's funded separately, and it has its own processes. Everyone else is processed by Immigration Refugee Citizenship Canada. So one doesn't have to do with the other. But the Conservatives have been saying this for the last 4 years, and I know they're smart people. I know they know that that's not true. So why are they doing that? If they know that it's not true, why do they keep saying that? Because they want to scare Canadians. They want to scare communities to say the reason why you cannot bring your grandmother is because of this refugee. That's such bad politics, and it creates fear and division in our communities. And what a good leader should do is tell the truth and bring people along. And the fact is, whether people come to Canada through economic immigration, through family class, or even through refugee systems, the history shows that we have contributed, all of us, to Canada. And people eventually get to the point where they have the same income, the same job participation, and the same contributions to Canada.
Yeah, I'm running up against the clock.
Go ahead.
So about the international students.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit more about this? Because today probably you have read this in our national paper.
Yeah.
How the students are being exploited. And they said they'd never had an intention of going to the classroom. All the colleges have agents, sales agents. They are recruiting them, and they're giving them false hope, and then they're coming here, and they want to work.
Yeah.
You know, when they want to work, they are limited hours.
Yeah.
One student, truck driver, he has been deported because he was working long hours in order to pay his tuition fee. I mean, you always kept that you maintain that you are making more money from students than the softwood lumber.
Yes.
Of course, we are making money.
Yes.
But the Canadian system is not going to be in favor of those kind of exploitations. Like we are the country of human rights.
Of course, we don't want people to be exploited.
Do you realize, do you know how the students are exploited?
Absolutely, we do. And
what are you doing about it?
What we're doing about it is two things. First, I just had a meeting with my counterpart yesterday. And last week we had a federal, provincial, territorial teleconference of ministers responsible for immigration. This is an issue that we're taking very seriously. Look, international students make a great contribution to our economy, $21.5 billion. It's a huge amount of money. They also enrich our communities, and some of them who, after graduating, stay in Canada and work, they fill our labor market needs. So overall, it's a good news story. There is a small segment that is being taken advantage of, and given the wrong advice by unauthorized immigration consultants, which gives me now the opportunity to talk about what we are doing about unauthorized immigration consultants who take advantage of people. These are victims of bad advice and bad information. And we have said very clearly, sir, that unauthorized immigration consultants are hurting people. They're taking advantage of them, they're ruining their lives, and they're taking their money. So we said we have to tackle this. And I said it way back, but I also said we have to get it right. We have to solve this problem once and for all. And the way we're doing that is through Bill C-97. We're putting $52 million in a new comprehensive strategy that includes investments, enforcement, investigations, and tightening of the oversight.
Are you regulating them?
We looked at that model. It's a very expensive and less effective model. So what we're setting up is stronger oversight. I don't know if you're aware, but lawyers, doctors, teachers,
They
all
have
these,
their own.
they self-regulate, but there is government oversight. And they self-regulate through statute. There is government legislation that regulates their behavior. So we're doing the exact same thing for immigration consultants for the first time. $52 million investment. There will be a compensation fund for people who have been taken advantage of, who've lost money. For the first time in Canadian history, there'll be a compensation fund to help them. We are doubling the number of the criminal fine that we will levy on people who are unauthorized immigration consultants, up from $100,000 to $200,000. That's a big penalty. In addition to that, we're introducing another penalty called the administrative monetary penalty, which is also a lot of money levied against them. We are setting up a new college of immigration and citizenship consultants. They will have more robust educational requirements, more robust complaints and disciplinary process. They will compel their members to buy liability insurance just like lawyers. They will be given the power to go to court to get an injunction against unauthorized immigration consultants. And part of the $52 million we will use to send immigration officers abroad to educate foreign nationals in some of our key markets like India, China, and parts of Africa on who to use as an immigration consultant and who to avoid, and give people the right information so that this doesn't happen. The new college will have the board of directors will be public interest directors appointed by IRCC, by the government, to look out for the public interest, not the interest of the membership. We will also have a civil servant who sits on the board to observe what's happening. So the days of unauthorized immigration consultants taking advantage of people without consequence, those days are over. More money for CBSA to investigate them as
More
well.
fines you're increasing, the price of the LMIA will increase too. You know that I brought to your attention before, you knew from CBC that LMIA being sold for $30,000, $40,000. Now it's probably $50,000 in black market. Are you doing anything in order to change the system so LMIA cannot be sold?
Anyone who violates our laws, whether it's on the LMIA, whether it's on the immigration issues, we need resources to give more tools to our agencies, CBSA, RCMP, and all that, to go after these people. So we're doing that. Part of the strategy is to help them. Some of these cases are very complex. So CBSA needs help to conduct these complex investigations. But going after them, charging them criminally, charging them administratively, issuing lists, naming and shaming these people. So I believe the strategy, and by the way, the new college will have standards. They'll improve the training, improve the educational requirements, and we will encourage people to use, by some of the, in addition to the people who've been taken advantage of, the unauthorized immigration consultants are also ruining the reputation of the good immigration consultants who do a good job helping people. So I think finally, when you look at the resources, the investigations, the fines, and the requirements and the stronger oversight, there's a good balance here of strong government action, stronger oversight, more educational requirements, and more publicity, educating the public. So we hope that people will go to the good people who are covered by insurance and education and good membership.
So when this new system will be effective?
As soon as possible. The budget implementation bill has passed. So now we have the authorities. I have to now constitute the regulatory framework to get going. So we have the legislative authority to now move forward.
We'll take the calls in a few minutes. One good thing, Minister, you have done is about the rural immigration.
Okay. One good thing?
Yeah. Recently.
Anyway, I'm joking.
So this rural immigration, I think, will facilitate areas in the remote areas to be developed. And a lot of people can probably go there and live it. Give us a brief description of that.
Yes, so it's called the Rural and Northern Immigration Pilot Program. We asked communities to apply to Government of Canada to be selected. And there were only two criteria. One is, do you have a severe labor shortage? Do you need workers in your rural area for the businesses there? And do you have an infrastructure of welcoming people? Do you have language training? Do you have other supports for these workers when they come? Because they're not only coming with them by themselves, they're also bringing their family. So we had 50 applications from 50 different communities and regions.
It's a pilot project, isn't it?
It's a pilot project, but hopefully we will learn. It's a 5-year pilot project. So we selected 11 out of the 50, not because only 11 were good. Actually, most of them were good applications, but pilot projects have a cap, right? So we selected 11, and I'm very happy to inform you that British Columbia had 2 winning communities in that list. One is the West Kootenay region. The whole region applied as one group, and they got selected because they had a very good application.
Yeah, that's in Castlegar, yeah.
And the second one is Vernon, British Columbia, also got selected. So I'm very excited about that. This is a great program. The employers there can go and recruit the workers that they need for their particular labor market need. All they have to do is get the blessing of the community and send us the application. We process it, permanent residency, plus the family. So it's
Any
a great
stipulation that they have to live there for years and years?
Well, that's the understanding. I mean, once you bring the family and the children, if they have kids, look.
So there's no stipulation.
Let me put it this way. We have now the Atlantic Immigration Pilot Program is in its 3rd year. Nova Scotia, before this program, had a 60% retention rate for its skilled immigrants. Now they have 90% retention rate. Why? Because the Atlantic program includes the family. Once the kids are in school and the spouse has another job,
I agree.
The principal applicant is not going anywhere.
But
so we have our constitution which allows mobility. But when you include the family and you have a job and you have a welcoming community,
then you're tied up.
It's unlikely. So we've learned the lesson from Atlantic Canada for the last 2.5 years. I believe this will be the same.
But basically, there's no law. If the people in Vernon
no, there is no law.
Try to move here,
there is no
Surrey,
law.
They can move, sir.
There's no law, but sir, you have to learn from history. The Atlantic program showed us that if you put the right incentives, people will stay.
Okay.
So the rural program, I believe, will also be the same. By the way, you're forgetting, I also announced in the budget, the budget included a new agri-food pilot program, which also will be unrolled. We haven't announced the details yet, but it's been approved. This will target a shortage of labor in the meat cutting industry, the butchers, and non-seasonal agriculture. So that's a very good program, and I told my counterpart in British Columbia, Minister Ralston, that BC should take advantage of that program.
And also the family reunification has been a very important issue. With the family reunification, you had this quota system, the first come, first served, then the lottery system you started, then you changed it again. Are you bringing another system?
We are talking to Canadians, so I would love to hear their opinions on your show and right across
Let's
BC and everywhere else.
Because some people have expressed their opinion this morning.
Look, we've tried different models. There's always a group of people who are not happy with the intake system. I've said it publicly that we are open government to listen to Canadians. If they have other preferences, I'm all ears.
Don't you think that Canada needs a stable policy instead of experimenting with them?
No, but look, the program is too popular. The demand is so high, and but the caps, we've increased the caps 4 times from 5,000 to 20,000.
Okay.
So, but the problem is the demand is too high. So we always have to have an intake system that treats everyone fairly, but still has the cap.
Minister, you are a lawyer.
Yeah.
You have very fair mind. You tell me,
Yeah.
a person who's been working here for 20 years, he applies for his parents, he has the income, he has the money, they're refused. And a student comes here 2 months ago, he applies for his parents are here in 3 months. Is that fair?
Sir, that's anecdote, and it's hard to respond to anecdotes. If that parent, if the student has a parent who has the right criteria
apply for
wait, let me finish. If an international student is here, and they have the right, and their parent has the right indicators and the right requirements to visit them, I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't know why there is this concern about this issue.
About the other person who was waiting for.
But these are two different issues. This person is coming to visit their child and then go back, whereas the other one is sponsoring a parent. What's the connection?
But consequently, the family is reunified. It's a reunification of the family.
No, this is someone visiting Canada versus someone who's being sponsored for permanent residency. It's two different
Like you said,
things.
they're not just visiting. Some of them are.
That's a whole different story. So we have to tackle that. That's fair.
Okay, let's
That's
hear
fair.
the people.
Okay.
Line 1. Hello, Mr. Bagdi.
Mr. Thind, I was listening to the minister here, and I would probably have heard all the answer that the honorable minister gave. I have a couple of questions. Family reunification and the labor market, about LMI, whatever they call it.
Yeah.
Okay, we've been in Canada for 1907.
Mm-hmm.
And we applied for my nephew applied for his brother with his parent. And the immigration lost the file. What can we do? Number one. Number two, in Vernon, my cousin get about 50, 60 worker from Mexico. Can we get them from India? 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
I'll stay online. Can you give to them? I can talk to him, or you can relate what I've
No,
told.
no, I've
He's
heard,
understanding.
I've heard you.
And English too, or Punjabi as well.
I've heard you.
That's fine.
I've heard you on the question of bringing labor from India. Our labor market laws and our work permit processes, they don't discriminate based on country of origin. If the employer wants to offer jobs to people who are qualified in any part of the world, then our immigration system will process those applications.
No problem.
That's not an issue at all. I mean, we don't really. It doesn't matter where the person is from.
Because
what matters
in farms here, a lot of farmers need labor here.
Yes.
They're bringing labor from Mexico instead in the Okanagan and other areas. Can they bring it from India?
Well, I think it's hard to understand these questions because some of them are, I think he's referring to the seasonal agricultural worker program.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a unique program. We have an agreement with Mexico and Jamaica and a number of Caribbean countries.
Not with India?
We don't have a bilateral agreement with India, but I'm sure you can bring that up with the Minister of Labor to see what the possibilities are there. But the seasonal agricultural worker program has been working for decades, and we have agreements with these countries. How they come about and how we can have further agreements with other countries, I think, is something that the Minister of Labor can answer.
His second question was that he applied for his parents and your department lost the file.
That's news to me. If he goes to his member of parliament, we are more than happy to work. If he goes to his MP, the MP will then use the immigration tools available for them to find out exactly what happened. And I will commit to working with his member of parliament to do whatever we can to help him. If what he's saying is true, then it shouldn't have happened. And I am more than happy when things don't go right to help Canadians to resolve those issues. So I make a commitment right here in front of you that if he goes to his member of parliament, provides the necessary information, we will work with that MP to do whatever we can to resolve this issue.
Bagdi sahab? ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ go to your MP. He said he'll help you.
Hello.
Hanji.
Yeah, but there's only 5 people that are. They allowed us 5 people to bring from India. Are you listening?
Yes, I'm
As
here.
a seasonal worker?
Yeah. Why can't we bring 40 people from India?
I've already answered your question, sir. The seasonal agricultural worker program is a program that has been. These are arrangements that are made between Canada and the countries that provide.
So it's the Minister of Labor that decides?
Yes. Well, I mean, they're involved in those issues. But in terms of generally speaking, if you need a worker in any industry in Canada, you give them a job offer, and then they go through the LMI process, and they can come. And everyone comes from all parts of the world. We rely on so many different people.
Agle caller name Manak Saab. Hello, Mr. Manak. Hello, Mr. Manak. Jagdeep ji, Jagdeep Randhawa.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, Minister.
Good morning.
ਤੇ ਸਰ ਮਾੜਾ ਜਿਹਾ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੁੱਛੇ ਲਿਖਣਾ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਵਿਜ਼ਟਰ ਆਉਣ ਤੇ ਕੋਈ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਰ ਵਿਜ਼ਟਰ ਆ ਕੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ $25 ਦੀ ਜੌਬ $8 ਤੇ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਤਾਂ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੀ ਵੈਲਿਊਜ਼ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਗਈਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਟੈਕਸ ਪੇਅਰ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਵੈਲਿਊਜ਼ ਕਿੱਥੇ ਗਈਆਂ ਔਰ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਕੰਟਰੀ ਨੂੰ ਚਲਾਉਣ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੀ ਟੈਕਸ ਪੇਅਰ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਰਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਇਹ ਰੈਫਰ ਦਿੰਦੀ ਆ ਵੀ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਵਿਜ਼ਟਰ ਆ ਕੇ ਉਹ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਜਿਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਮੌਰਗੇਜ ਦੇਣੀ ਆ ਇੱਥੇ ਰਹਿ ਕੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਜੌਬਾਂ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਲੂਜ਼ ਹੋ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਉਹਦਾ ਰਿਸਪੌਂਸੀਬਲ
Okay, all right. His concern is that when the visitors are coming here,
Yeah.
and they're working here, there's a $25 job, they're working for $8 of cash. And where goes the Canadian value then? How are we going to pay our mortgages?
So, as I said earlier, anyone who abuses our immigration system will be dealt with by the law. There's always a fine balance between welcoming people, but also ensuring that they respect our immigration system, but also respect and not undercut Canadian wages, Canadian workers, and we have provided more resources to our ESDC folks to investigate and conduct inspections to make sure that people are not mistreated at the workplace, but also that people are not violating the conditions of their entry into Canada. This is why I was telling you earlier. You were saying why have some visas being denied. This gentleman makes the perfect point because he's also giving you the other side of the coin. He's saying some people are getting visitor visas and then abusing them. And I have a third example.
But I was talking about the visitors who are bringing, hundreds and thousands of dollars with them to spend in Canada.
Yes, but that's the question, right? Like the question is, so there's people who are abusing the system to go work, and then there's others who also claim asylum by obtaining a visitor visa to come to Canada.
That's abuse. You're right.
So all those factors have to be taken into consideration by our decision makers. So it's not a clear-cut case. They have to make a judgment call based on what's in front of them. If you, for example, are coming to, this is a really important point. Let me make a quick point. Say you're a visitor, you're coming to Canada, and you're claiming that you need to get a visa because you're making these big investments in Canada. But in your application, you don't provide your financial profile. How's the officer supposed to know what to do? So they will base their decision based on what you provided them. You could be a big investor, but if they don't see that in the paperwork, they will make the decision based on the paperwork. They may not have the opportunity to interview you, right?
Mr. Singh Saab.
ਹੈਲੋ
ਹਾਂਜੀ
ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਜੀ
ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ
ਹਾਂਜੀ ਮੈਂ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨੀ ਸੀ ਮੈਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਬਹੁਤ ਵੱਡੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਫਸਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਬਿਕੋਜ਼ ਮੈਂ ਵਰਕ ਪਰਮਿਟ ਲਿਆ ਸੀ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਕਿਸੇ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਕੰਸਲਟੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਥਰੂ ਅਤੇ ਮੈਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ 20,000 ਪੇ ਕਰਨਾ ਸੀ ਅਤੇ 16,000 ਮੈਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪੇ ਕਰਤਾ ਸੀ ਅਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਵਰਕ ਪਰਮਿਟ ਦੇ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਅਤੇ ਮੇਰਾ ਪਾਸਪੋਰਟ ਆਪਣੇ ਕੋਲ ਰੱਖ ਲਿਆ ਜਸਟ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਵਰਕ ਪਰਮਿਟ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਅਤੇ ਅੰਪਲਾਇਰ ਵੀ ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਮੇਰਾ ਅਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਕੰਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਤੂੰ ਕੈਸ਼ 'ਤੇ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਅਤੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਪਾਸਪੋਰਟ ਨਹੀਂ ਦੇ ਰਹੇ ਅਤੇ 4,000 ਮੇਰੇ ਤੋਂ ਹੋਰ ਮੰਗ ਰਿਹਾ ਮੈਂ ਇਹਦੇ ਲਈ 3 ਵਾਰ CBSA ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਵਾ ਅਤੇ MP ਸਰਾਏ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਮਿਲਿਆ ਵਾ ਅਤੇ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਈਮੇਲ ਵੀ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ ਅਤੇ RCMP ਕੋਲ ਵੀ ਮੇਰਾ ਕੇਸ ਚੱਲ ਰਿਹਾ ਅਤੇ RCMP ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਨਵੈਸਟੀਗੇਸ਼ਨ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਅਤੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ
ਵਰਕ ਪਰਮਿਟ ਹੈਗਾ ਜੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਕੋਲ
ਜਾਂ ਵਰਕ ਪਰਮਿਟ ਹੈਗਾ ਮੇਰੇ
ਓਪਨ ਵਰਕ ਪਰਮਿਟ
ਨਹੀਂ ਮਤਲਬ ਕਿ ਫਾਰਮ ਦਾ ਲਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਤੇ EMPLOYER ਨੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਕੰਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਦਿੱਤਾ ਹੈਗਾ। ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਹਾ ਵੀ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕੰਮ ਦਿਓ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਤੂੰ ਸਰ ਕੰਮ ਕਿਤੇ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਕਰ, ਕੈਸ਼ ਤੇ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਪੇਰੋਲ ਦੇ ਦਾਂਗੇ, ਹੈ ਨਾ, ਤੇ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਟੈਕਸ ਦੇਣਾ ਪੈਣਾ। ਮੈਂ ਕਿਹਾ ਵੀ ਕਿੰਨਾ ਟੈਕਸ ਦੇਣਾ ਪੈਣਾ? ਕਹਿੰਦੇ $90 ਪਰ ਆਵਰ ਦੇ ਹਿਸਾਬ ਨਾਲ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਟੈਕਸ ਦੇਣਾ ਪੈਣਾ, ਤੇ ਜੇ ਤੂੰ ਸਾਡੇ ਕੋਲੇ ਕੰਮ ਕਰਨਾ ਤੈਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ $12 ਪੇ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਤੇ
ਓਕੇ ਜੀ, ਮੈਂ ਦੱਸਦਾ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ। He said he's got a work permit from an consultant. He paid, they wanted $20,000. He paid $16,000. They kept his passport, and he has the work permit. They want $4,000 more. He feels he's exploited, and he complained to CBSA. He has complained to MP Randeep Singh Sarai. He's also complained to RCMP, has sent you a letter too.
Okay.
He's in a bind and nobody's helped him so far.
So I think he's done a good thing by calling CBSA and providing them the information. I would urge him to follow up with CBSA as well. And if he can, he should also call the Ministry of Labour, Employment and
ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਨਾਂ
Workforce
ਕੀ ਹੈ ਜੀ?
Development.
ਹਾਂਜੀ,
ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਨਾਂ ਕੀ ਹੈ?
ਮੇਰਾ ਨਾਮ ਗੁਰਦਰਸ਼ਨ ਸਿੰਘ ਹੈ।
ਗੁਰਦਰਸ਼ਨ ਸਿੰਘ।
ਯਾ ਮੈਂ ਕੱਲ ਵੀ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਆਇਆ CBSA ਵੈਨਕੂਵਰ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਆਇਆ। ਮੈਂ 2 ਵਾਰ ਇੱਥੇ ਬਾਰਡਰ ਤੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਆਇਆ ਸੀ।
ਤੁਸੀਂ MP ਸਾਹਿਬ ਨੂੰ ਫੇਰ ਮਿਲਿਓ ਆਪਣੇ ਨੂੰ। ਮਿਸਟਰ ਸਰਾਏ ਇਜ਼ ਹਿਜ਼ ਮੈਂਬਰ ਪਾਰਲੀਮੈਂਟ।
Okay.
ਸੋ ਉਹ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਮਦਦ ਕਰਨਗੇ ਜੀ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਦੱਸ ਦਿਓ ਕਿ ਮੈਂ ਮਿਨਿਸਟਰ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਨੌਲੇਜ ਹੈ। ਬੌਬ, ਲਾਈਨ 5। ਹੈਲੋ ਬੌਬ।
Hello, Mr. Thind, and hello, Mr. Minister.
Yes.
Honorable Minister. I have a couple of comments, if you don't mind saying those. I have comments about your immigration system in general, actually.
Yeah.
I personally believe that, the immigration system should be a balanced immigration. Your government is obviously a liberal government, and they call themselves as a liberal for a reason. And the second thing is that the other government is the opposite, and they went too far in immigration, deporting people and stuff. And
What is your question?
the question is that it's a comment.
Okay, what is the comment?
Comment is that there's overcrowding in transit, overcrowding in schools. The local schools have portables in it. The money he's saying it's just like setting up a shop, basically saying it's a shop for immigration. Bring us the money, we'll give you a visa. And then not considering the local population who is already here is suffering on the hands of people who are coming in just because of overcrowding. Go to the hospitals, there's a huge bunch of people just in the emergency. So this is one of those things which I wanted to highlight, is that the local people are suffering. You have to take care of the local people first, and then set up a shop saying, okay, they are bringing huge amount of money into the Canadian system, which is not fair, I think.
So thank you for your comment. My response to that is we can do both. We can take care of Canadians while also welcoming newcomers to contribute to Canada. It's not a zero-sum game. It's not one or the other. We can do both. We are a wealthy society, and we have to understand that, of course, Canadians come first for any job or economic opportunity. Unfortunately, many sectors of our economy are already at full employment. And so they're already short of workers. I'll give you an example. The meat cutting industry, when I met with them, the union, the employers, and the communities were all saying the same thing in the same meeting. They were saying, please bring us more foreign workers. And I said to the union, are you in favor of this? Because I thought you guys were protecting your members. He said, well, our members are fully employed. And so we have a gap of 12%, and we can't fill it. And we are afraid that if we don't find the labor, the company will go somewhere else. So the fact is, apart from our Indigenous brothers and sisters, Canada has been built on a tradition of people coming, being helped by the local community, and then them turning around and contributing to Canada, and then over time helping other newcomers. So that's number one. Number two, in terms of overcrowding in schools and infrastructure and so on, we are doing that as well. I think the caller is suggesting that we're somehow just making money from immigrants by bringing them in, but not addressing the local issues. That's not fair. And it's not true. We have a record amount of investments, spending on infrastructure, on housing, $40 billion on a national housing strategy, money going to families to help them with the cost of living. We have the lowest unemployment rate in 40 years. We have also, with the help of Canadians, created over 1 million jobs. Those are things that are happening for Canadians.
Okay. Next caller is Amarjeet Kaur ji.
Hello.
Ji.
Hi. I have a question for Minister.
Mm-hmm.
How many years will take my widow mother-in-law to join us in Canada, since we were not lucky enough to win Lotto, and last year the interest of sponsorship form was unavailable? Any answer for this one, please?
Have you tried the super visa process?
She already visited us on super visa.
Okay,
and,
that's good.
So the problem with that is she now recently gone back to India again because it was only for 2 years.
Yeah, but then
And
she can apply again.
Every time she goes from there, she asks us the same question. Do I have to continue this every 2 years, or what's going to be the future?
So, continue.
So, yeah. So, because we don't have an answer. The system is so disturbed this time. We went to MPs, we bring this issue up, and we still don't have an answer for her. Now, she can definitely come back, and why we don't have a system, I don't care if she's not going to apply for the all benefits or anything. She just needs time to stay here, so there would be no pressure that this is the time, this month you have to go back.
Well, with all due respect, the super visa is not for a few months, it's for 2 years. 2 years for her to spend time here is a long time. It's not a month. So that should, she's lucky that she has the super visa and she can spend 2 years at any given time on her visit, which I think is at least an interim solution. I would suggest that you keep trying with the parent-grandparent sponsorship. Let's remember where we were. We were at a point where we had thousands of people in a backlog. We had 7 to 8 year wait times. We had only 5,000 spots. And there was a time when the Conservatives under Prime Minister Harper, they stopped the program for 2 years. So for 2 years, you couldn't even apply. So we have increased the number from 5,000 to 20,000. We've lowered the wait time from 8 years to 21 months. Mm-hmm. The intake process, as I said, even though we've increased it 4 times, the demand is so high. So we encourage people to use the super visa and try again. I am talking to Canadians to see how we can improve the system. Maybe have more than one draw, so that if one of the ideas that has been brought to me is have one draw every 2 months or 3 months, and therefore if you don't get in the first draw, you can try the second one and the third one.
We have a last caller here. Four call mein nahi le sakda. Last caller is Nikki. Hi, Nikki.
Hi, Nikki. Hi, Ji. I want to say that I have a sister who is widow.
Mm-hmm.
And he tried to apply last year as a visitor to come here and stay with me maybe a month or 4 weeks or 5 weeks. And they refused it. This time again, I did a letter from here. I thought, okay, I can do for you from here. And they have refused it again. And nothing like big issue to say that she didn't have a history of going out anywhere. She's widow. Where would she go actually by herself? Mm-hmm. And she has a family there, like a granddaughter and her son and a daughter-in-law. She just wants to come and visit us. That's all we have to do.
I can't comment on a specific case. I would say, these decisions are made by independent visa officers. We give them really good training and knowledge transfer from senior officers who have knowledge of a particular regions and countries, and we're always looking at quality assurance to make sure that they're making the right decisions. But that's the system we have. We have independent decision makers, and we trust them. They're well trained. They detect fraud. They also harness the visa system to reunite families and allow people to come to Canada. As I said, the big picture is we've issued 30% more visas to Indian nationals than the previous government. And of course, better is always possible, but at the end of the day, we have to trust these officers because they know what they're doing.
Minister, my last thing is, would you ever consider, in case you win the election, you're Immigration Minister again, would you consider that person who can put a bond?
The bond, yeah, I've heard of this
like
before.
a cash bond, cash. Like if I say,
Yeah.
here's my $100,000,
Right.
bring my visitor here, my brother here. If he claims asylum, if he do not go back, if he try to be a refugee or whatever,
Okay, I'll answer that.
Then confiscate my $100,000.
Right. So I've heard this before. It needs a lot of study because there's also legal implications. I mean, do you then set up a 2-tier system? So what if I can't afford to put up 100,000? Does that mean I get less chance than the person who, we have one fair system right now. So that's one consideration. The other one is it requires a legislative change. We have Immigration Refugee Protection Act right now does not allow for that kind of undertaking. We would have to change the legislation to allow for that kind of undertaking. So it needs some study, but I've heard this before. I'm not saying no, but I'm saying we need to look at it.
It's not that everybody, like in case of suspicion, let's say your immigration minister makes a judgment that this guy isn't going to come back. In that case,
we are processing 700,000 applications from India. My office doesn't have the capacity to look at who's suspicious and that's why we have officers, right? And
they write a letter that you're not eligible because you have no history.
Yeah.
So would you consider that legislation, or it's not possible?
Well, I mean, look, we'll always study what comes from Canadians. This is not the first time I've heard this idea, but I was just giving you a preliminary understanding of some of the issues. So you would have to consider the equality issue, and also you'll have to consider the legislative change, and if that is the way to go.
Minister, anything you'd like to say in closing?
I would like to say that, remember where we were 4 years ago. Talent was taking a long time to get to Canada. Now it's taking a fast process. Under the Global Skills Strategy, it used to take 7 months to get someone here, to grow a company. It now takes 10 business days. I want to hear more of that, and let's do what we can to highlight those successes. Our economy is really doing well. 90% of our labor market force participation in the next 10 years will be because of immigration. We need immigration. So let's fight back against the fear-mongering by using facts. Let's fight fear with facts. Let's not demonize refugees, because that's also part of who we are. We've always welcomed people who are fleeing persecution. And let's remember that more is always possible. There are people who are struggling who need to be included in the economy. But certainly, I think moving forward, immigration will continue to be important to address our unfilled jobs in really growing regions of Canada like British Columbia.
Minister, thank you very much for giving us the time and specifically talking to our listeners.
No problem.
and callers.
Always a pleasure being
Thank
back
you.
here at Red FM.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
#1 South Asian radio station, 89.1 and 93.1
Red FM.